Hi my dear people, my name is Laura and I do a lot of videos about bullet journaling. So if you're new here, then welcome, and if you're not new, then welcome back. I hope you are going to enjoy this plan with me video, and without further ado, let's actually get started with planning. The theme for this bullet journal setup is very cliche, it's very classic for the fall weather, but I still decided to go with it because this is kind of my first time planning, and on this channel I haven't done September month before, so this is the first one and I wanted to make it right. As you could have seen from the little title and little intro that I gave you, this theme I decided to call Vintage Book of Deer, and the reason for that is because I imagined that this theme would be kind of a book where I drew a lot of deer and a lot of fall motifs, and that's why the cover page that I'm creating now, and as well as the quote page, remind you of a book cover, and that is exactly how I wanted it to be. So the first part of this book cover page is actually a quote which reminds me of autumn, and it says, "Autumn approaches and the heart begins to dream." This quote is actually very true to me because I also dream a lot during autumn, and actually this kind of weather and everything about it makes me so warm, and it makes me so magical and dreamy, especially with all of those motifs like animals and mushrooms. That's just such a fall aesthetic, and that is kind of my favorite one actually. I also decided to have a beautiful illustration that is also a part of my theme this month, and that is actually deer. And first we can see that I drew doe, and also I drew a deer. I don't exactly know what type of deers they are, but yeah, I actually found an illustration on Pinterest, and that was kind of my reference. I think that the gold color is also giving it some type of storybook kind of magical vibe, and I'm glad that I went with that color. And I also used my Pigma Micron fine liners to actually give color to deer, and that was a good decision, but I kind of regret it after I was painting the other stuff with gouache, so I kind of wanted to do this with gouache too, but it was also a very cool technique that I tried a lot in my sketchbook too to see how it looks, and I hope that you like it as well. And I also kind of give it more shape with actually outlining the parts that I want to darken even more with the fine liners, so that I layered them, and that gave it a darker kind of look. I hope that you understand what I'm saying, and you can see here this is an example of darkening it. As you could have heard maybe from the previous videos if you watched them, I really enjoy deer. They're my favorite animals lately, and I enjoy seeing them in nature, and this video is also going to feature a lot of them, which I captured with my camera. Yes, the footage is not the best, but I don't care because every time I see them I want to film them because they're so amazing. I also added some golden stars to the whole spread so that it would have a bit more magical look, and also the best part in my opinion and the most satisfying one is to give them those little white dots, and that is definitely the most satisfying part of the video for me. I would say that I kind of overdone it because they have a lot of dots in this illustration, but they turned out pretty well, I would say, so I don't mind it. And now we came to this part where it says September, and this is a true cover page, and I did this little font which I thought it would be very vintage and cute for this topic, and I also decided to illustrate some mushrooms. I don't exactly know what type they are, I just illustrated them the way I wanted, so I don't exactly know how they're called. And I also added some leaves on the top of the spread. Leaves are also pretty random, and they're actually very easy to draw once you get into them. At first I was having troubled time with them, but then I understood the technique and it was pretty simple. I also wrote book 9 because, as I said, I imagined this whole theme to be kind of book illustrations and book theme. And that's why I wrote book 9, because it's the 9th month, so I decided to name it book 9, and then all of those weekly spreads, they would be chapters. We also have our first gouache paintings done here, and at first I actually didn't know the technique for the leaves, and they were kind of ugly in my opinion because the colors weren't accurate, but then I kind of got into it and I understood the technique. Then the leaves got better and I improved them. If you notice closely now and later with other illustrations, I would say that I gradually got better. I don't know how that happened, but somehow my painting got so much better and I understood the colors and shading. And I think the more that I paint, the more I'm good at it. For example, these mushrooms turned out so much better than the leaves. And later I drew a lot. And when I say a lot, I really mean a lot of deer, and I love it. But anyways, I think that the later paintings turned out pretty well because I understood the technique. So definitely practicing is a good way to go. I am still continuing the stars here because they make it so magical, and I also decided to paint a little grass here. It is kind of green now, but I think that this type of green is also somehow suited for the fall weather. And I also did a very cool thing with the leaves above deer, because first I painted them green, but then I decided that that was not exactly the color of the leaves in the fall, that was not representing the fall weather. And then I went with a different color, but I decided to keep those little green leaves so that it would mean that the fall is coming. It's not exactly here yet with like the 1st of September, but it's definitely coming. I just really love the fall weather. I love the colors that they are here. I love how everything is brown and everything is warm. And I love, as I said, the animals that you can see in nature. For example, I see a lot of deer, and I would love to see fox one day. That is such a wish, but I didn't see them yet. And here is a closer look of how those cover pages and quote page look like, and we are moving on to my calendar spread and also to playlist spread. I'm starting here with painting because I mixed a very nice shade of orange and red here, so that's why I decided to first go with painting because I didn't want to waste the color. As you can see, I improved myself with the leaves here, and they look so much neat and better than the ones that were on the previous page. This is a deer, or better to say a fawn, that I showed you in my thumbnail, and I made this cutie pie a thumbnail because he turned out so well. I don't know how I did the colors and shading, but he turned out so cute, and this is my favorite illustration in my whole bullet journal in general, so I'm very proud of this little fawn. And this on the left side I kind of did myself. I wasn't having any reference photo, and I'm very proud of that because I generally don't know how to sketch or draw without some photos and references. But I think that he also turned out pretty cute because he's having a little leaf on his face, and that is so cute. I also drew some chestnut here, which are also a very great representation of the fall weather. And it was time for my favorite part out of all, and that was adding the white. I also added some additional shading to every painting, and that was basically it from this calendar and playlist page. And I didn't want to bother you with how I created a calendar itself because that's self-explanatory, and usually it's kind of boring in the video because you basically just draw the lines and you add the numbers. So I decided to leave that out for now and focus more on the paintings. This little fella on the chapter 1 and chapter 2 combined was also my idea, because even though I was watching a reference photo of adorable fawn who is lying down, I drew the mushroom by my own, and that's why I combined them as if he was sitting on a mushroom, and that kind of added some kind of magical moment as well. And with all that, I was done with my cover page, playlist page, and also the first weekly, or should I say chapter 1. And that is it from me. I hope you like this setup because I do a lot, and I will see you with part 2. Bye guys!